Welcome to the Traveling Professors. I'm Professor Bob.
And I'm Professor Sheri.
And together we are the Traveling Professors. In today's show, which is actually part 1 of 2, Sheri and I are going to take you to the island of Samos and give you a little tour and show you the hotel at Samos City while we were on our Greek tour in 2017. I'm going to use this map as usual to show you what we're going to be looking at. First of all, I'd like to say that Sheri and I have been to Greece on 3 occasions, including this 2017 period. In 2012, we took a cruise that left Athens and then ended up back in Venice with my oldest daughter and her husband. That's a trip that I proposed to Sheri at the foot of the Acropolis. We went back again in 2014. That was a trip where we went to Turkey. We spent 10 days or so in Istanbul, traveling to Troy and some other places. But we started in Greece, went to Turkey, and then we came back to Greece. This is going to be a trip to the islands. So as you can see here, the island of Samos is already marked. Coming here because we're going to make a trip to Kusadasi to see Ephesus. The intention was to go to Samos and then go to the island of Patmos, where the Apostle John wrote his gospel. But there aren't any boats that go from Samos to Patmos. So we had to go back to Athens to take another ship to Patmos, which will not happen. But I'll explain that in the second part of our Samos trip. We ended up going to Rhodes. We ended up going to Crete, Herculon, and of course there we saw Knossos. We then went to Santorini, and then to Mykonos, and then back to Athens. Here's the map of Samos. Now we flew in from Athens and landed at the airport by Pythagoras. The island is only 184 square miles and only has a population of 32,977. But there's a lot to see on the island. There's the Herilon of Samos, which is the temple to Hera, which was one of the largest temples in the world when it was built. There's also the Epillanian Aqueduct, the Samos Museum in Samos, where you have the largest Curious statue. And of course it is the home to many famous ancient individuals, such as Pythagoras, whom the second largest city is now named after, Pythagorea. It used to be the old Samos in ancient times, but now it's named after Pythagoras. Aesop is from Samos, as is Epicurus, the philosopher of Epicureanism. And Aristarchus is the oldest individual with the idea that the earth revolved around the sun. And of course, if you want to do some just regular recreation, there's plenty of beaches, mountain climbing, all sorts of things to do. But there's one thing you need to remember. Sheri and I arrived in mid-May, right after finishing our teaching at the community college. We wanted to get there a little early. We got there a little too early. The buses which normally ran to all these different sites were doing school duty at the time. So if you wanted to visit the sites and you didn't want to rent a car, you were going to have to use a taxi. We were staying in the city of Samos, which is in the harbor, at the Hotel Samos City. Now, the reason why Sheri and I came to the island of Samos was because of its closeness to Turkey. And there is a ferry that runs between Samos, the city, and Kusadasi. And Kusadasi is the point where you go to visit Ephesus, you go to visit the home of the Virgin Mary, and all sorts of other things. And so we thought it would be fun to have a nice little ferry ride across. This show is going to be about where we're in Samos as we get ready to leave and then land in Kusadasi. And then we'll pick up when we've come back from Kusadasi, and I'm going to do Ephesus separate because it's a much longer segment. We had been there before. We had been to Kusadasi before on our 2012 trip on the cruise line. And got to spend, I think it was 2.5 hours in Ephesus. Not enough time. And it was crowded also. So we thought we'd go back and have a second time and have some fun. After arriving in Athens, we spent a couple of days in Athens at our hotel, the Amalia. And then we headed out to the airport to go to Samos. Well, I was really surprised to see that our plane was a twin propeller plane. Now, we use a GN which owns Olympic. I had not been in that size of a plane, was a little concerned, but it was fine. The one thing I found about it was really fun because you didn't have to fly so high you couldn't see anything. You could see all the islands and you could see a lot of different things. And here's the view coming into the island of Samos. Almost all of these airports on these islands are right there by the sea. If you make a mistake, you go back into the sea. So needless to say, we paid close attention to what to do with our seat cushions if we needed a sea landing. We came in, landed at this little airport here at Samos. You'd be surprised what flies out of there. There's a lot of German tourists that come into Samos, and you can fly directly from some cities in Germany to this island. And as we're leaving, there's a nice little shot of our plane, which is basically the same plane that we'll use to fly back to Athens. We had a nice taxi ride to Samos, and here is our hotel, Hotel Samos City. Interior here is the little lobby, and the nice marble stairs that go on up to where your rooms are located. And Sheri and I had a really nice little room. It was about, I think it was $90-some a night. So there's the bed. There's the look at the hallway to the door. There's our bathroom. And then we have a little porch there, and there's a nice little area to sit and relax and look at the gardens, the side parts of the city. Now, they had, obviously, rooms that you could take from the front and get a view of the harbor, but those were a little bit more expensive. It's not a problem when you just go down the stairs and walk out, and there's the harbor. And then here's the view looking back to our little room. So, as usual, we're only here to sleep and rest a little bit, and the rest of the time we're out and about. So it's time to go out and about. Let's walk the harbor of Samos. The harbor at Samos is just unbelievably beautiful. So we come out of our hotel, so we take a nice little shot of the hotel, and so we're going to walk all the way around the harbor area. Now, one of the things that people in the hotel told us that most of the restaurants on the front are not the really good restaurants. If you want a restaurant that gets a real flavor of the town, go a block into the city. And sure enough, there's these little signs everywhere telling you which way to go. So we ended up doing that. Then we get a little bit further down to the end of the harbor. There are a couple of harbor boats in there. They're actually German Coast Guard boats, and they're helping out with the immigrants fleeing from Syria that are being kept on the island of Lesbos. And so you go down to the corner area, and you see the beautiful view of the harbor region. And then looking out to the other side, just like all Greek cities and towns on islands, they're all down on the side of the hills and right down on the water. Now, they did have, I believe it's in 2021, they had a little tsunami type of thing that came in here and kind of washed into the second tier of streets. Then this is looking all the way across over onto the other side. We went about halfway, and this is the view looking back from that halfway point. And you see the jetty out here, which is the area where that helps to protect the harbor. And the ferry that comes in will come in this particular area right here. It's actually just probably half a block down from where our hotel is. So here we are turning around to head back the other direction, and you can see the buildup of the seawall here at this particular part of the harbor. And then this is a look back where you can see the whole harbor opening. How it's not real narrow, but it certainly is a protective harbor. On the way back, we're looking for those signs, and here is the one we found, Taverna Garden. So that's where we're going to go eat. So here is the Taverna Garden, and as you see, there's nobody there. This is a problem that Sheri and I always have on the first couple of days we go anywhere on vacation. We're used to eating in our American time. Other cultures start a lot later. I know we're thinking about going to Spain this year, and they don't start till really late. So you just have to kind of get used to it. Usually it takes us a couple of times. But they were open, and it did give us an opportunity to talk to the wait staff, who is actually the son of the owners. He just finished college and with his degree in restauranting and tourism. A lot of different choices to sit down. And here's Sheri. They have a dance the next night, so we came to the dance show. And so here is our wonderful Greek food. Greek salad, seafood. Oh, the octopus was just to die for. And, of course, the nice thing about being there early is people will take our picture. There's a nice picture of us at the table. And we both really liked the Greek beer called Mythos. So we had a wonderful evening doing that. We ate there the next night. And the next night, Sheri's fish of the day, the sea bass, she got a bone stuck in her throat. It took quite a while to dislodge it. Make sure you get all those bones out of those fillets. The next day, we got up and began to explore the city. And coming out of our hotel, here is the view of the ferry that will be taking us to Kusadasi the next day. And they have the little customs area. And we walked to a little local Orthodox church. And so we attended the Greek Orthodox Church there. It's a beautiful picture of it on the inside. They let us take after we'd been there and talked with them. People were really nice. Some of them had relatives in the United States, and so they asked us American questions. And then we went one block behind where our hotel was and walked along for the shops, and then headed to the historical center. So here is the main church in the city of Samos. And then this is one of the government office buildings, and this is another one of the museums in the city. And then this is the one that we were specifically looking forward to seeing. This is the Archaeological Museum in Samos, and they have all the artifacts from Hera's temple, the Herlion. And in it is this gigantic kurios. This is, as I said before in the beginning, this is the largest one that has ever been found. And one of the things you have to be careful in Greece is they don't like you posing with the pictures. They'll yell at you. So if you're going to take pictures with people in them, make it look like they're doing something and you're just taking a picture and they happen to be in it. So here's the front. You see the front of the kurios. Well, we got to see the back side of the kurios, get the full event. And there's Sheri standing in the corner taking a picture of it. Then here we have one of the plinths that they have out at the temple area where you would have your statues in it and you'd have your columns. Now, what they will do is frequently they'll take an original one and move it to the museum and then have a replica placed in the temple area so it doesn't get damaged or looted. And so this is a picture of that before they moved it into the museum. Now, one of the things about Greek temples is you bring offerings. And you can have burnt offerings, there's all sorts of offerings, but you can bring actual objects. And when you bring objects, you will place them by the altar or in special areas, and they will remain there. It's considered really bad luck to take those off the site. So sometimes if they're damaged, they're buried. And so you'll be excavating. And this little offering that you see here with the griffin heads, there are lots of individual griffins, the griffin heads that you find loose that they pick up. But this is one where the whole project was intact. And you would have put, here's a beautiful lion. Here we have a Pegasus on a bronze plaque. Here we have another circular pottery object with little cruets in it. So there's lots of different artifacts that you find at this site. And that they're usually kept here in this museum. There are some at the museum in Athens. And of course, they have cats, so I had pet the kitties, and we always bring cat food with us, and so feeding the strays on the outside. And then we went and walked around the rest of the town, did a little shopping, and then decided to rest and have lunch. There's a little central square where they have all sorts of little fast food restaurants and a regular restaurant. But I like this particular store, My Philosophy, and it sells falafels of different kinds. We did find a little shallow beach area so Sheri could dip her legs into the Aegean Sea. And then heading back to the hotel, we found this little ceramic donkey, and she's a sucker for animals, so she got to have a picture taken with our ceramic donkey here. Well, the next day it's time to go to Kusadasi. So we got up, had breakfast, and then walked over to where the ferry is. They have one in the morning and then one later on in the day. To go through the customs building, there's the ship. And you have to go, here's we are lining up, so we got there pretty early. I'm always early. Sheri will tell you I'm terribly early sometimes. It was relatively simple going through customs. And we got on our ship, got a nice little spot. There's the view of our hotel from the boat. And then we start heading out. So there's the jetty. We're towards the end of the jetty, which gives you a chance to look back at the hotel and hospital and other buildings. And as we turn, get a nice view of the rest of the town. Then going up to the front of the ship, there's the view as we're starting to head out of the harbor area into the open sea. And it was a very nice, I thought it was like an hour and a half or 2 hour trip to Kusadasi. And then on the way in the Kusadasi, you go into the port. There's the main fortification protecting the harbor of Kusadasi. And when we do our little trip through Kusadasi, we'll take you to that, wander around. But this harbor is full of gigantic cruise ships. And this was the cruise ship that was docked when we were arriving. And it was a little choppy when we came in. You had to time your exit off the back of the ship with the uproll of the ship. But we managed to get off without a hitch, went through customs. It was a little longer in Turkey. And then we walked down the street about 3 blocks to our hotel. And then later on that evening, as the sun was setting, we went out and took this picture with the cruise ship still there. Which, of course, the cruise ships are the real problem for us if we're going to be going to Kusadasi, which we were the next day. because they'll, you got thousands of people on those ships and they load up the buses and then they just, fill the site up, so to speak. So we'll see what that's like the next morning. So that was part one of our trip to Samos. And now we're going to take a little hiatus and leave Kusadasi and Ephesus and those sites for another time. And when I come back, we'll pick up getting on the ship here and then heading next to Patmos. Sheri and I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please come by our YouTube channel at Bob Packett, and please subscribe and leave some comments. Thank you very much. I've been doing podcasting on history for over 15 years. I've got over 4,000 shows, and I've done CDs, which of course can be sent out as USBs. So if you would really like to get more on history for free, then come by my website, as you see here, historyaccordingtobob.com, and see what's there. So thank you very much again.